Welcome to the next video of the IB Business Management series. This is 1.5 Growth and Evolution Part 2. So firstly, we have to look at the reasons for why businesses grow. So in the last video, we looked at the economies of scale, and this is a reason to grow. It means lower costs for various reasons. Other reason can be increased market share, so then you have market power, and that means you can influence the market price more. Also, sort of brand recognition can also be a reason for growth, and all of these sort of will lead to higher revenues and profits eventually. So the main motive is always profit, just different ways that growth sort of helps achieve that. But why do businesses stay small? First of all, it is easier to control a small business. If you're a small business, then there is a sort of prestige associated with you. So it could be an intended sort of brand image reason. And that can also allow you to charge higher prices. And in case you are operating in a very niche market, what that means, it's a very specific market. So, for example, a very specific market for like some very special type of pens from a very special material. Not many businesses are there, so you have low competition, but there isn't enough demand where you could like grow further. And so that's it for those two. Next, we have to look at differences between external and internal growth. So internal growth is also referred to as organic growth. And this is growth that happens using the own businesses like resources and abilities. It is low risk and is like happens naturally, and you fully retain the control of the business. But there is sort of lower potential for there's lower growth potential, and it is slow. It is hard, and it is slow. And then external growth is when a business somehow makes a connection to another organization. And we will look at the methods of how this is done now. So firstly, we have a merger. So a merger occurs when two or more companies or businesses make a new business by joining together. So A plus B is AB. So for example, if Apple and Samsung decided to become AppSong, that would be a merger. And so the positives of this are economies of scale, minimizing sort of competition, because if we're a competing business and we join together, then we become sort of like one business, and we don't have the competition of the other anymore. The negatives, however, are can be DOS, so like diseconomies of scale. If we, especially managerial, so it will become a lot harder to sort of manage the business as a whole when it gets this large. And there can definitely be cultural clash, so sort of the culture of business A being different from the culture of business B, and they sort of collide, and there can be conflict, etc. And there's also a risk of sort of anti-monopoly legal procedures where the government usually does not like when businesses are too large, because that means you have a lot of power over the market and you can influence price in a way that is not fair, and sort of like the social welfare is not maximized. And also increased bureaucracy. There can be a risk of sort of just failure in general, and it can also be very expensive. And there will also have to be like redundancies made in places where workers are not needed anymore, because like you don't need two finance departments for the business. There will be some redundancies taking place, definitely. And also the merger can sort of occur in different ways. So in the case that it is the the business that sells the goods, integrating with a sort of a business that makes the goods, then that's like vertical integration. And in the case that it is two like businesses that sell the goods, then it is horizontal integration. So vertical is when you're sort of joining with like the producer and like a different sort of type of the producer chain. Different part of the producer chain joining together is vertical, and the same level of the producer chain is horizontal. Then we have an acquisition. So that is when sort of A here absorbs B and goes into A. So it's just sort of like it's not them joining together. It's when A sort of buys the majority of B's shares and becomes A. And this can be hostile or non-hostile. So either it can be done on an agreement, or it can just be a takeover where A buys the majority of B's share and takes them over without sort of any communication. Next, we have a joint venture. So this occurs when two or more companies create a new company for their mutual benefit. So A plus B and they make C. So for example, if I produce goods and you produce goods and we make a shop where we both sell those goods and we run that shop together, that would be an example. And so the benefit is that we're splitting the risk of setting up the business and we're splitting the costs. And we're also sort of reducing the competition that would occur in the case where I was to make another thing. Like I was to make D and you were to make C, then C and D would have to compete. But in this way, there's just C. So yeah, competition is reduced. Negatives, again, can be conflict, sort of splitting profits, splitting costs, um, also having to sort of share expertise on how we do things in our business is a negative. And then there's also the reliance on the partner. So there is just like a degree to which we lose control over the success of C. Next type is a strategic alliance. So that's when two or more organizations join together to benefit from external growth without creation of a new business entity. So, for example, if we weren't to make like a new business, a business like all together. For example, if we were to set up a mining sort of thing from which both of us would get the raw materials, but the mining thing would not get any profit. So it wouldn't be like a business. So positives of this are that there is sort of less bureaucracy than in terms of a joint venture, and there can be benefits from cooperation, sharing of sort of expertise, and it is also very flexible. Another example that just came to my mind is so that, like, for example, when Pepsi collaborates with Starbucks, and Pepsi sort of gives the like allows for the canning, and Starbucks allows for the coffee creation, and then they sell those products. They don't make a new business entity, but they are like cooperating in a way. And negatives of this type of growth method are that because of the fact that it is easier to exit because there's no sort of legal binding contract that would be the case in a joint venture, there is sort of instability, and like one business can just back out of the strategic alliance anytime they want. And again, as with all of these, cultural clash, conflict, etc. And lastly, we have franchising. So what franchising is when a franchisor company allows other companies, which are called franchisees, to sell their products and trade under their brand in exchange for royalty payments. So what does this all mean? So McDonald's, all of like the little McDonald's places that you have in your town, they are not like fully ran and controlled by the big McDonald's company. They are like owned by franchisees who like get the profits of the business and everything, but they sell McDonald's products and they sell under McDonald's brand. And in exchange for that, McDonald's gets a certain amount of money from them, and those are called the royalty payments. And so the benefits from the perspective of the franchisor, so that would be like the McDonald's company, are that it is income flow without sort of any necessary like having to actually run the place. And also there is increased brand recognition. So it's basically like free marketing for our brand just done by this business. The negatives from the for the franchisor are, however, that they're like risking their brand image because they're basically giving the control over how the business is sort of shown to the consumer to the franchisee, and they also need to sort of monitor the franchisee, so that increases costs, and they could also receive more profit in the case that they would do this on their own. Um, so it's this sort of thing that, you know, it's easy money, but at the same time it could be more money in the case that we did it on our own. And now in regards to the franchisee, um, the benefit is that it is sort of like a tested business model that we're sort of setting up. There is a low risk of failure in general, and there's already brand recognition for McDonald's. You know, like if you were to set up a McDonald's place, you have like guaranteed success. But you also need to pay off the um, royalties, and also it is like very complex and expensive to gain the license from McDonald's from from the franchisor in the first place. And there is also like a certain constraint on the way you run the business, so there's no space for innovation or for creativity. So if that's something like the franchisee is looking for, the person setting up the business is looking for, then it might not be like the right sort of thing for them to do. So yes, those are the 5 business methods, and I'll see you in the next video.